You're listening to the Daily Sales Tips Podcast, and I'm your host, Scott Ingram. Did you just hear me say that for like the 15th time in a row? If so, do me a quick favor. Hit pause and send a short email to me at scott@top1.fm. I want to hear about your experience binge listening to this podcast. Let me know what app you're using and if there's any way I can improve the experience of listening to a bunch of these in a row. All right, let's get on with today's tip. Although in a loose way, it's actually connected to that ask. Listening to podcasts tends to be a very passive activity. It's probably not the only thing you're doing. My guess is that most of the time you're driving, flying, or otherwise commuting. Maybe you're working out in some way, shape, or form. What did I miss? When do you listen to podcasts? If you click over to dailysales.tips/134, you can even post a picture of yourself listening to the show in the comments. In any case, there's a pretty good chance that you may not be in a position to take some of these actions because your body is otherwise busy. Or it might even be dangerous or illegal if you're driving or something like that. That's what makes the activity passive. I'm going to suggest that you think about ways to make it active. Should you be actively engaging in the content you're consuming? Would it make sense to take a quick note with your biggest lesson learned or a takeaway from each episode you listen to? Should you capture an action item based on something you heard that you want to try? No, you don't necessarily need your hands for this. Take advantage of the voice assistant on your phone and say, "Hey Siri, take a note," or "Okay Google, create a note." Just my own note here. This is my second attempt at recording this because the first time, of course, I triggered my own iPhone. You can also create reminders and tasks as well. If you click over to this tips page, I've included some links with more details on various voice assistant prompts for both Apple and Android devices. The other thing you can do that a surprisingly small percentage do is to reach out to the guests and the hosts of the podcasts you listen to. If you got something out of an episode or are otherwise interested in someone you just listened to, reach out to them. You've got one of the greatest opening lines ready to go. You just have to say, "Hey, I heard you on the Daily Sales Tips podcast and would love to connect," or ask a question to go deeper into the topic. Whatever. I'd be willing to bet you'll get a response more than half the time. I have a few regular listeners who are masters of this. I'm talking about you, Kevin Pickett, David Sidhang, and Jack Wilson. They will regularly reach out to people that I've interviewed. I know Kevin will sometimes set up short conversations, and I believe Davidson has even brought a few of them together in person in New York City. This is such a huge overlooked opportunity. People who are on podcasts or who host podcasts love hearing from people who've listened to them. They want to know what you thought and what you found most valuable or interesting so they can double down on what resonates most in their next interview. Based on my experience over the last couple of years of hosting these podcasts, it's probably just 1 to 2% of listeners who ever take this kind of action. So don't think, "Oh my gosh, they're being overwhelmed. Everybody must be reaching out to them." It's just not true. Now, this is also true for authors and other creators as well. Anybody who's putting content out there wants to hear what people think. So reach out, connect, start conversations, write reviews. Don't be passive like everybody else. Actively engage, and you'll be amazed at what happens. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being actively engaged, and come back tomorrow for another great sales tip.